Okay, we'll call this part two of our little load data exercise. One thing I want to make you aware of is just because it bugged me, I named this integer here year or years. That's not really what it describes. In the interest of being clear in my coding, I changed this to days. So we're going to do a full year, so 365 days. So I changed that name there, and put it right there. Okay. And if you were following along, I caught a little error when I was copying and pasting before. Caught this while I was waiting for the first screen capture to compress. Is when I copy and pasted, I forgot to change this to max temp, right? So we want to get the min and we want to get the max. Okay, so so we have this data here, and as if we look at any of these numbers, you can see what seems like an incredibly cold day, minus 111. Again, as I mentioned before in the first video, these numbers are in tenths of degrees, and they're also in Celsius. So this is actually, I believe, minus 1 Celsius. I'm not sure exactly what that translates to Fahrenheit. We could write a function to certainly do that calculation later on, and the thing that we're going to use here, the map function, relates to that, but we don't really care. What I want to do is understand what is the maximum setup and the minimum setup for the temperatures and figure out how to take that range and fit it into color in a certain way. So several ways we could do this. We've already gone through kind of a for loop here to load this. What I want to do after I have all that data loaded there is I'm going to create two new little variables, and we'll call this one low min, and I'll get to that in a second. Add to that, and I'm going to call this one high max. Okay, so let's add what we want here. So this is going to be, the low min is going to equal, and we're going to use a function here called min. And what this will do is go through an array and tell us what the smallest value in that list, in that array is. So this would be min temp. And we don't need to iterate or anything like that. It's going to do that for us. And we'll do max. So there's a min, there's also a max function, and this would be max temp. Right? So what we're going to do is just get an idea of what those numbers are. And if maybe to figure that out right now, let's just go ahead and do print line. And we'll do low min plus, we'll do a little concatenation here, low. And this one do print line. What do I call that? High max. Oops. Plus hold space, and we'll call it high. Oops. Let's see what I forgot here. There we go. All right. Let's see if this blows up. Hopefully, we should see down here at the bottom. Minus 133 is our low, and 317 is our high. Again, these sound like temperatures maybe on, I don't know, Venus or something. Mercury, maybe. Wait, this is the sun. But so we're going to map those out. But at least right now we know what those values are. We don't have to sift through here. You certainly can kind of sort through the list here in Excel if we wanted to, but we're not going to worry about that. All right, so now that we have those numbers, we want to go back through that list and let's make the min and max temperatures. Just look at my little notes here. So let's go ahead and map those to a color range. So let's do this here. So normally we use color. You can see that we click through here and we use RGB, which is the default method in processing. It'll be a little bit easier to do this moving through color space if we use HSB, hue, saturation, and brightness. Because as we click through here, so let's say red right here, all the way to the top, is 359 degrees. 0 would be red down here. And tones. If I come down into blue, let's go maybe this far. Is that pretty cold? I don't know. Let's put it right there. What does that color look like? Okay, so about 180 maybe 200, depends on what you want your cold to look like, maybe 190. So I can map whatever the highest number in my data range and my lowest number to this color space. And I can set the saturation and brightness however I would like. And I could use transparency or whatever in my little spheres or my ellipses. But this space here is going to map to that. So let's go ahead and let's just make a little note. Just so in our brains, 359 is the color high, and what do you say, like 190 is the color low. All right, and since we're going to end up doing this, let's go ahead and change the method right now, the color method. So color mode, right, and we're going to do HSB. So we tell processing what it's going to be. Instead of RGB, we'll use HSB. And I believe processing requires us to tell us what the numerical values would be. I don't know if it defaults, but just out of habit, I like to just say, hey, the color range number is going to go from 0 to 360, so that gives us the color wheel, and then the saturation and brightness go from 0 to 100. They're percents, and you can see that right here in the setup, right? Degrees and percentages. If we put it over here, you can see that we're, oops, right? So 0 to 100, or 0 to 99, I guess is what the max is. So we need to know that because we're going to write a little function that takes that into account. So let's load the min temperature first with I. Oops, let's make sure we do that correctly. And we're going to take that value and we're going to make it equal to a mapping of exactly what that is, temp I. So let's talk about the min, what this is, or the map. Map says, let's take X, and then we'll put the low. Let's take the old low and the old high, and let's fit that into a range that now is the new low and the new high. All right, so let's just comment that out. So that's what this is doing for us, right? So map gets used for lots of different things. Certainly for data, very, very important to make, whatever those values. We could have crazy values from different data sources. It could be millions of people. It could be numbers that only go from 0 to 1. But we want to remap those values. So the old low value that we want for the min temperature is going to be, and we're going to fit this within the larger scale. So really what I need is the lowest low and the highest high. So the lowest low, we already did this right here in our little function. So that will be low minimum. And the highest high will be the high max, right? And then we want that to fit within our color space. And what would we say? We've got our little note here, 190 and 359. All right, so let's go ahead and copy that. Oops. And unlike before, I will make sure to change that. I do that all the time. When I copy and paste to try to be efficient, but then I forget to change the little thing. Slight variation in whatever the numbers are. So this will be the same setup. We're just going to fit that range within this and the range within that. Okay. And that should be, let's go ahead and clean this up here. We'll make sure we're all organized. And let's see if it blows up. Ready, and right, okay. All right, so we have successfully loaded all of our data, broken it down and assigned them to arrays, searched those arrays for the values that we want, kind of the meaningful highs and lows, and now we're going to, and then we've remapped those values into something that's meaningful for us. So now we can go back in here and let's see. So we're going to do fill, and the fill will be because we're using this color mode, we're going to assign the hue first of all, so this will be min temp. And we need to put something in here. I'm going to create something, create a counter here in a minute. Right, and let's just say 50 and 50 and 50 for now, right? And this is, oops, let's put this one. Actually, I'm going to reverse the order. Seems kind of weird, but most of the time when you look at highs and lows, you see the high first and the low. So I've written these so I have an ellipse that's right at the center of the screen and then moved to the left, and then I have another ellipse that's at the center and moved to the right. They both have the radius that I had assigned earlier. So this is going to be the max temperature. And this will be the minimum temperature. Right, so now what we need is a counter. So let's just say counter equals 0. And as we go through our draw, we want to continually iterate through the counter. So it's like plus plus, right? So what we want to do is every frame, in fact, so this doesn't go too fast. Let's just go frame rate 10. So we'll play our animation back at 10 frames a second, so it's not ripping through it very quickly. We could change that, and this would just be the simplest way to do that. So what we want to do is say, hey, load counter 0, so the index value for the max and minimum temperatures, or the miniature temperature, the minimum temperature, and color our spheres, and the next time around it'll be the first and second and third indice position as we go along, right? But the problem is we don't want that to go on forever. The year we want to kind of reload. So if counter equals 65, is that what we want to do? Yeah, 365, because it's going to count 0 to 364. Then we want counter 0. Okay. Click, 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 click. Looks like we've got ourselves a data visualization. It's doing its thing. I'm not so sure about the saturation in that. It's a little weak. Let's go back here and try this. And let's make this a little bit faster. Let's try 15 frames. And let's make these values 100, 100. Let's make them a little more bright since we've made them kind of transparent. Right? So you can see this is getting a little bit warmer as we go along. And if you wanted to figure out how effectively this was working, or where you were at in the year, you could just tell it to print counter down below. In fact, let's just go ahead and do that because it's the way I roll. Let's do print line counter. All right, so it's printing the days down here. We can see where we are in the months. A lot of back and forth in the winter months. You can see as we get here to the middle of the summer, a nice, pretty even balance. And then obviously we get back to the winter, and we should get down here to the bottom, and it will load again. All right. Okay, so I think that's it. Let's summarize what we've done here into short clips. So important thing here is we're using different color mode up in the setup. Just anytime you're trying to procedurally use color, you might as well just use the color mode. I think that's the way to go of HSB. We created a custom function called loadData that we're just going to use once at the very beginning. So we'll go down to loadData here. Ideally, obviously, we would comment the crap out of this so we know what we're doing. We started to do that down here. But we've loaded the CSV data, gone through it, found out that min and max, and then remapped those values. And then we're just feeding those values into some color information. And we have a data visualization of the temperatures for Blacksburg, Virginia for 2013. Okay, I think that does it. Happy coding.